A lot of times when people want an organ on a track that isn't, innately bluesy, they want the organ to provide that kind of flavor. So it's about flavoring a track. We're going to do this Carole King song, You've Got a Friend, which was famously done in a beautiful soul R&B style by Donny Hathaway. So this arrangement already kind of brings us there. My role is to almost be kind of choir-like and give the blues gospel flavorings, and to be sort of orchestral in that way. And that's another function of the organ, is that it can be sort of orchestral or sort of choral in that way. It can also be a great instrument to have somebody do fills on, color the melody. As in any situation, I want to sort of carve out my own textural space, try to stay out of the way of the rest of the band, and try to really, when we're accompanying a melody, we're trying to make that melody player or singer just sound even better by making choices that are more emotional choices and textural color choices. We're going to try this, and I will. You'll see some of the types of things that I'm talking about. A kind of melodic chordal kind of roll, and then at times a sort of secondary kind of melodic filler kind of player. Going to be using a lot more of the spinning Leslie for this one. To be sort of transparent and try not to get out of the way, I'm going to use a, kind of a glassy drawbar setting, which really doesn't have a lot of harmonics. So this kind of, I'm pulling out the third drawbar here, which is just enabling me to get really high on the organ. You'll hear a lot of that kind of stuff, by the way, a sort of triadic way of getting around a key center. Here is, this type of thing where I'm going between 1 and 2 minor. But using these little soulful grace notes. And once in a while, I'll add a diminished chord or something to really push the R&B gospel flavorings. So let's see what we got here. We'll start with the intro.
Damn, Adam, Larry Goldings is the real deal.
He's great, isn't he?
Yeah.
And there's so much more great stuff at Larry's Open Studio course, Jazz Organ Essentials. Click the link and start your free trial today.
All right, back to the video.
So at the end there, I got into another fun thing in the organ, and that is to take advantage of like a 2-manual kind of. You hear it reggae a lot. And what I do is I set up 2 slightly different sounds on each manual so that I get, so I can sort of do that kind of thing. And then you're really acting as a very much a rhythm instrument. We're vamping at the end there from, basically 1 to 4, as a very amen type of situation. But one kind of subtle thing that's really effective, instead of just going to a regular 4, is to really would be sort of a 4/6 chord, instead of this. We do. It's got the B flat. It's sort of like a 2 minor 7 chord, or it's a 4/6 chord. And before I was talking about this sound, as opposed to instead of 1/4 1/4 1/4, it's more like 1 2 minor or 1 4/6. So I'm doing a lot of that, and sometimes I'm fitting in this little diminished chord. Very, very gospel-y sound. One really needs to listen to people like Richard T., who was a master at making people sound great with all these flavorings and his feel and his sounds, both of the Rhodes and the organ and the piano, of course. The reason you're there is for feeling and for orchestral reasons and and you're trying to make emotional choices. And you're not trying to show off musically. You're really trying to be authentic in a style. So, like anything else, I would recommend listening to as many people in that area as possible. Anybody with this kind of vocabulary that has its roots in the Baptist church, there's a lot to listen to. For me, every time I hear Ray Charles, I realize, well, sometimes I think that's all you need. All you need is Ray Charles and Aretha Franklin. People don't talk enough about Aretha Franklin's piano playing, but there is just so much to learn in terms of feel and taste and time. And of course, you're also trying to be as melodic as possible in those areas where you have the opportunity to be filling behind somebody. And again, I'm really gravitating to very airy sounds. You know, I don't want to fill up too much of this thicker space because we got a lot of stuff going on here in terms of texture. The vamp at the end is not something we planned to do or to go that long, but if it's grooving, which it was, you know, you wanna stay there. And you want to try to have a dialogue and a conversation with the band. And so, you know, some of the most fun I had, like, say, with John Scofield was ending vamps, you know. It almost becomes a whole creature in itself where you can get into other spaces. Like anything, in any situation, the better your ears are, the better a conversation you're gonna have with others. So that's what we were doing there at the end. Everybody was reacting and trying to be supportive and trying to play as a whole. Even though you're not as a keyboard player, you're not a rhythm player in the way that a drummer and a bass player are, you are a rhythm player. You need to be a rhythm player. So anytime I choose to, let's go to that vamp, for instance. 1, 2... Sometimes all I want to do is be the guy that goes. That might be something that a guitar does, you know. We don't have a guitar, so I'm going to be the guitar. And I might want to find a part, you know. And I want to make sure that's nice and relaxed. Yes. So it's about trying to be as tasteful as possible, trying to leave space, trying to be melodic, and I'm doing a lot of expression pedal playing. I didn't really talk about that. Let's do the vamp again. 2, 3, 4. I could do some block chord playing in this context. I could use the percussion here. Yeah. So a lot of volume pedal stuff. That's gonna help the expression. That's gonna help that feeling of a choir and make a potentially very static electric instrument breathe. I really do feel like a percussionist when I'm trying to do a part like this kind of thing. There's another thing I do. I wasn't gonna show you all, but it's a little thing that you can't. Well, you can't use it. But here it is. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going through. So I'm going through the presets. Remember we talked about the presets. But the key is, your time's got to be good and funky, and I'm trying to be a drummer with these fingers here. Also, the cancel button is I've got my pinky on the cancel button. Because if you don't use the cancel button, you're going to get stuck. That's why the cancel button is there. I've been experimenting with this as an effect for a while, and I use it a lot. It's very synthy sounding. It sounds like you're putting the instrument through a filter. But it just becomes about rhythm, Well, not just about rhythm. I'm playing, musical ideas here. But that's fun because suddenly you're really testing yourself as a rhythm player. If it's not grooving, it's not going to be that fun. So we're trying to groove. Who said everything I play is got to be funky? Lee Dorsey. And that's really what this is all about. If your feel is really good, and it's relaxed, and it's also based on your listening to what's around you, you can play really simple ideas. You can play just melodic, simple ideas, and there's nothing better than a good idea. That's where I'm at. I think that my playing over the years has become more idea-based. Maybe one thing about getting older is you get more secure about your abilities, and so you feel like you have less to prove. And you also see the impact on an audience when you play something that has some meaning behind it, and that is clear and melodic. You see how that goes over with people and how much that connects with people. And how much a band likes that as well. I think I used to be a lot more concerned with how many different harmonies can I imply in this vamp from 1 to 4. That can be cool. I mean, you can. There's a way to reserve a place for that within a performance. But I think in this context, that's not what this music is about. It's about connecting. So it's one of the reasons why I love playing in this context. We might have a lot to prove. We might have a lot in our heads and a lot of intellectual knowledge. I think of Ahmad Jamal records where 20 minutes into the record, he does something that is so phenomenal technically, but it's the first time he did it, on the tune or on the record. And you go, and it's that much more powerful because he reserved it for a moment where it was going to really be effective. And you're not hearing it for the entire gig or for the entire record. And that takes maturity. But I think there's a lot to be said for being patient and reserving more technical or more intellectual things and pulling them out reservedly so that when they do happen, it has an effect. I've seen so many great players show me everything that they can do in the first 2 or 3 tunes of a gig. And then it's sort of like, well, maybe we've seen enough. That thing is so kind of unique and weird sounding that I have to be careful not to do it all night, So it's about picking those moments and letting the music breathe and remembering that it's not really about you. It's about the whole effect of the band and of the music as a whole. In closing, I just want to say, whether you're playing organ, piano, Rhodes, all these instruments have their strengths. And like Rhodes, for instance, is tricky because it can be a very big sound. Same with the Wurlitzer. It's a very heavy, woody sound. If you're playing too many notes on some of these instruments, it's too much from a textural point of view. I'm not going to play down in this range because we have a bass player. If he's playing the melody in a certain range, I want to try to get away from there because that's already being covered. That's one of the reasons why we listen. And our roles can change depending on what's happening or not happening, in the band. Normally in this context, there would be a guitar who might be, hitting backbeats or something. If nobody's hitting backbeats, that might be an opportunity for you to do that. In the example with the moving of with the drawbar, with the preset stuff, there's nobody rhythmically at that time that I chose to do it going, implying those 16th notes and stuff. So there's a little space for me. It's really important. The main reason to listen is to determine sort of from moment to moment what role you should be playing. If somebody's, playing a lot of notes, I think maybe the worst thing for you to do is to also play a lot of notes. You need to leave them the space to do that. Anyway, thank you, and thank you.